exponential adoption of technology. It is the fourth industrial revolution. The scale and the speed at which these innovations are introduced universally into our everyday lives and activities is unprecedented in our recorded history. We cannot stand idly by. Ecozones will be fully supported to bring in strategic industries such as those engaged in high-tech manufacturing, health and medical care, and all emerging technologies. This is also seen to facilitate economic growth outside of Metro Manila.
As President Marcos said in his first State of the Nation address, new technologies are key in both established and emerging industries. One sector that's been tasked to develop and deliver that are about 300 ecozones spread throughout the country. Tonight, we zero in on one. We sit down with Cagayan Economic Zone Authority CEO and Administrator Katrina Ponce Enrile in this edition of the Chiefs. Welcome to the Chiefs. Ako po si Robbie Alampay. Kasama ko po ngayon dito sa studio in Mandaluyong, Ed Lingao of One News. Ed, magandang gabi.
Magandang gabi.
Anong balita natin?
Tingin ko paghahanda na lahat yan para sa SONA. I know it's 3 weeks away, pero pag sumampa naman ng July, talagang lahat nakatingin na sa sa second to the last Monday of the month.
In the past weeks, ang dami na rin natin kinakausap, iba-ibang sektor from agriculture. We have the new tourism campaign, of course. So, pinag-uusapan natin yan. Kaya lang nakatali dyan, maraming bagay pa rin, di ba? Infrastructure.
Ay, may nakita ko interesting may nagsabi na dapat merong comma after love.
Nakita ko rin yun.
Love
the Philippines. Galing sa amin, di ba? Parang bumaliktad yung
hindi utos ng love mo ang Pilipinas.
Pero gaya nga ng kinakausap natin ng mga marketing people, di ba? Hindi naman tayo nagmamarunong, and what they always remind is, well, antayin din natin yung execution. Malay natin, the execution can accommodate good ideas still. Maybe there's a lot. I think a point naman ng ibang mga tao is there's room here to innovate pa rin.
It's also about getting people to start owning the idea and turning it into their own idea.
Di ba? Pero tingnan natin. In the meantime, gaya nga nasabi mo, that's a few weeks away, July 24, ang next State of the Nation address ng Pangulo. Pero tonight, we're talking about the economy pa rin, and particularly engines of our economy, yung mga export economic zones natin, di ba? And in particular, we will speak with CEZA CEO and Administrator Katrina Ponce Enrile. A familiar name, but at the same time, not a name that we've necessarily seen in the context of, a government position, a public service, and so on. And this will be something that we really look forward to.
Yeah, she's also a person who's not often seen on television giving interviews.
Anyway, don't miss that conversation is what we're saying. The Chiefs will be right back with Katrina Ponce Enrile. And as we said, we have Katrina Ponce Enrile, now the Administrator and CEO of the Cagayan Economic Zone Authority, or CEZA. Good evening, ma'am. Welcome to the Chiefs.
Welcome po.
Good evening, Ed, and good evening, Robbie, and thank you for having me in your program tonight.
Thank you for joining us.
Ma'am, let me start with this. As we said, I read it somewhere. I don't know how accurate that was. That this is, in fact, your first government position. A lot of people would, I think, might be mildly surprised by that, given the prominence of your name, your family, your father, certainly. Is that accurate to say this is your first government post? And coming from the private sector, also, I'm wondering, what are you braced for? What have you been warned about taking on a government job?
Well, I've served as a director of Cagayan Economic Zone Authority since its inception. So I've served since Fidel Ramos. I've served Fidel Ramos as board member of CEZA, and then of course Joseph Estrada, President Joseph Estrada, and then of course President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo, and then President Aquino and President Duterte, and now I am now the Chief Executive Officer and Administrator of the Cagayan Economic Zone Authority.
Okay. Sige, then let's go straight to CEZA. To CEZA. Ano pong big plans nyo? President Marcos did say, these are our economic zones will be key to the growth of the economy, key to his plans for the development of the Philippines. What are some things that are on your marching orders from the president and that you think has always been there, certainly as far as CEZA is concerned?
Anyway, by way of background, I did my assignment, so to speak, before I got into and being officially taken in as the administrator, no? So there are about 6,000 economic zones, 6,000 plus economic zones all over the world, majority of which are in China, and the second largest number of economic zones happens to be here in the Philippines. So CEZA is a free port, and just I will interchangeably say CEZA and Santa Ana because RA 7922, the law creating Cagayan Economic Zone Authority, actually made the whole municipality of Santa Ana, which is in the northernmost eastern tip of Luzon, as the coverage of the whole free port. So we're not only an economic zone, we are also a free port. And just to give you the magnitude and size of this municipality, you can put Singapore inside of it, and there's still a lot of room to spare. And so, with saying that, I have my work cut out for me because the competition is going to be indeed daunting.
Well,
ma'am, all those facts.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, thank you for the numbers. I actually find that interesting. So the Philippines is number 2 in terms of the numbers of export zones or economic zones all over the world. Of course, that sounds really good. But when you think about it, when you back up a bit, if we have that many economic zones, have they been working the way we want them to? Considering where we are still right now, which I suppose would be the challenge to the administrators of all the economic zones, including now you. So from your perspective, what do you think has to be done to finally make it work for the Philippines? I mean, if we have the second largest number, then maybe it's not working as much as we want to.
I kind of agree. I think we should actually limit the number of economic zones and give advantages. The reason behind the law that was authored by my father was to give this a chance to very desolate, remote areas and very impoverished areas. I think that was the thrust of then the first President Marcos and my father when they were toying with the idea of having economic zones. As a matter of fact, the first economic zone we had here, they built in Bataan. That's the
Yes, ma'am.
Mariveles export processing zone. And then they actually went to Cagayan, and then they saw this area, and that's why there is a port there, and it was named Port Irene. Specifically Port Irene because it was named after the youngest daughter of then President Marcos. And then, okay, you asking me about the challenges, okay? Of course, competition is one of the challenges because there's just so many. I can only speak for Cagayan Economic Zone Authority, but as compared to the other more advanced economic zones like Clark, Subic, and the ones that are in Cavite and Baguio and other areas, Santa Ana is actually very, very undeveloped. It's not even underdeveloped, it's undeveloped. So one of the challenges that I face as the administrator is how to get funding. They of course everybody's trying to get a piece of the pie. But since Subic and Clark and all the other areas have already been developed, I was hoping, and I am still hoping, that they would look at Santa Ana with a different viewpoint. Because first of all, Santa Ana is a very strategic area.
Yeah.
Okay. If you look at all the ports, okay, they're all situated on the western side of our country, right where potential conflict might happen. That is in the West Philippine Sea or the South China Sea, whoever is talking about it. The only port that is not within that area would be Port Irene.
Port Irene. Yes, ma'am.
Port Irene and Santa Ana is very close to the Bashi Channel. Okay, Bashi Channel runs from Japan all the way through Taiwan and through the Philippines, and that is one of our strategic. That's one of the strategic defense points, so to speak, because that is one way. That is where the Balintang and Channel, which connects the South China Sea or the West Philippine Sea, connects to the Pacific Ocean. So that port and that whole area is very, very strategic. Strategic enough for the U.S. Decision makers, the United States decision makers, to take actual look at it, and there's actually one EDCA site inside
Camilo
of
Cias.
CEZA, okay, but we are actually handling two of the EDCA sites, of the potential EDCA sites, because the other one that is the airport in Lalo, which is called North Cagayan International Airport. That is also that's a PPP with CEZA. So we're actually connected to two potential EDCA sites, and that just shows you how strategic this place is.
Yes.
But it has not really been the focus of government, obviously. And probably now we have a fighting chance. So like I said, I need funding. Of course, I need proper planning for the future, because like now it's a blank page, right? So we can actually plan this whole area properly. There's obviously, like I said, lack of infrastructure.
Yes, ma'am.
There's hardly any connectivity, which I have to address, and our power is non-existent to being unstable.
We're glad that you mentioned EDCA, because this is also something. I mean, EDCA, and also, as you said, the strategic vision for the entire region. We agree. I mean, you look at this is not basis, but we look at what Clark and Subic obviously did for Central Luzon. That was an engine for activities and development. I think we hear what you're saying here. This is an opportunity. But at the same time, there have been officials. I think the governor was one of those who also said, yes, there are opportunities, but with every opportunity, the other side of there is risks. How do you see it? I mean, just taking everything, all these pieces together. You have an economic zone right there. You have the port. You have 2 EDCA sites, as you pointed out. As you go into your strategic visioning for the entire region, not just for the zone, you're essentially saying this is more an opportunity without having to deny that there might be risks, but on balance, this is all opportunity for you.
Yes, it's an opportunity, and it's also a very, like I said, it's a matter of our security as well as a nation, because unbeknownst to Benny, of course, this is a story that my father has always told me. One of the entry points during the Japanese occupation of the Philippines was through Cagayan, actually through Gonzaga, which before was Santa Ana was part of Gonzaga. So that is why it is really very, very important that we, for the security of our nation and also to develop the area so that we can disperse economic growth and give a chance to those people that are in the farthest area of the country in the north.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, apart from Batanes.
Mm. Well, ma'am, certainly a lot of potential for that economic zone, especially with EDCA. I've been to Santa Ana, but I don't believe I've ever been to Camilo Osias. When I look at Camilo Osias, the naval air station there, which will become, or which is now an EDCA site, I just see a small or tiny runway, and I think
Yes.
a deep water port. Yes, ma'am.
It's a very, very small port.
Mm.
So, but a very, very strategic one.
Strategic, very
which they can
strategic, yes, ma'am.
develop.
Of course. Which is also my point. If it's that strategic, I'd imagine that the Americans will be pouring in a lot of resources to develop Camilo Osias, precisely because it's the nearest military facility to Taiwan. I'm wondering lang how that will affect your economic zone, both economically and security-wise. You did mention a while ago that almost all the other economic zone ports are on the western side of the Philippines, facing the possible conflict point of the West Philippine Sea. But now we're also looking at a possible conflict point as well,
Taiwan.
in Port Irene.
What I said was most of the ports, not economic zones. The economic
Yes, ma'am.
zones
Okay.
are scattered everywhere.
Okay, ma'am.
Most of the ports
Yes, ma'am.
are in the western side. You have the Corimao.
Mhm.
You have Manila.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
I don't know if there's anyone. I would be missing
Yes,
some.
ma'am.
Obviously, you have Bataan,
Yes, ma'am.
and
But-
then you have also Batangas. You have all the way up to Zamboanga. They're all facing actually the western side.
Yes, ma'am.
So
But-
the
but-
only port available, if in case something happens, is going to be Port Irene.
Mm-hmm. So I was wondering, what kind of an impact do you think the EDCA and the development, or the potential development, and perhaps it's fair to say the potentially massive development of Camilo Osias, what kind of impact would that have on your economic zone?
Okay, I will just have to distinguish. The naval port is different from Port Irene. So
Yes,
Port
ma'am.
Irene is going to be a commercial port, while the Camilo Osias naval base is definitely going to be used for military. It is being used by the military because it is a military port. it also has a very short runway
Yes, ma'am.
there. I'm sure you've seen it.
Yeah. What I mean, ma'am, kasi, di ba, kabit-kabit lahat yan eh. Di ba?
Oh,
Kabit-kabit lang. Lahat na mangyari doon sa isa.
Oo nga. We have yet to discuss how we're going to do this, especially the one in Lalo, because it's privately owned.
Yes, ma'am.
I mean, it's part of government, it's private, public partnership. But that's why I went to see Secretary Gilbert Chodoro the other day to specifically iron out what it is exactly that they want to do there. So I can talk to the investors that have poured in money there and see what their taste for keeping or letting go of that facility will be, so that it will be open for use by the Philippine airports.
Ma'am, you mentioned, of course, sa lahat na to, as you said, funds. Kailangan nyo ngayon ng funds. Now, between the private sector, the security developments that's gonna happen there, the national government, and the economic zone, give us an idea lang. How much would it take, do you think, in terms of investments, that will raise you to a level of really catalyze CEZA as an engine of growth for the entire region? And where do you see it? Where do you see the sourcing of funds coming from?
Well, like I said, infrastructure there is very, very limited. Even our connectivity is, although we are connected, we would like to see a greater improvement on that, because we do want to be in direct competition, not only with the economic zones here, but with the economic zones all over the world. Even our pricing structures, I have to take a look at that. So in terms of budgets, we need if we're going to let go of let's first, just so that it's easier, the Lalo Airport, we need to put one airport inside the zone itself. So that's one of the projects that I am espousing. Of course, we have to strengthen by our Port Irene, by deepening it, because right now it's only the draft is only in up to 10 meters. We're going to make one area, one whole pier, about 300 meters to the depth of 14 meters, and the other area would be to the depth of 20 meters. So we will be able to get any kind, we can accommodate any kind of ship. As to the airport, I'm looking at a 2.5 kilometer runway, because the Lalo Airport is only 2.1 kilometers. Really build that up to the standards that you see everywhere else, so that, there's no reason for them to not be able to fly in even at night.
Mm-hmm. Actually, ma'am, I'm actually surprised to hear that you have significant infrastructure resource issues in the area. And you also mentioned, I think, connectivity, internet connection.
No, we do have connectivity. It's just not enough.
Not enough. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Well, I bring that up because I understand that the CEZA has a lot of investments in gaming
Online gaming?
and cryptocurrency. So how do you manage? How do you manage with with apparently insufficient connectivity?
But they've taken up most of it. So how about for the incoming investors? We're going to have to put up our own data center. That will also take up a lot of bandwidth.
Mm-hmm.
So, and also power. So, my short-term goals are actually to address the power situation and the connectivity, and of course, trying to get funding wherever I can, as much as possible. It's going to be a mix, of course. I'm gonna, of course, lobby with government to help me develop the area. But there are also pillars from other sources of funding coming from foreign countries as well.
But could you paint us a picture of the power situation there and the connectivity situation? I don't know.
Okay,
okay, go ahead.
current NGCP has actually put their posts all over. They're up there, but they're not going to wire those big, I call them transformer type of structures, until 2025. So I will have to rely on a stopgap measure to be able to at least power up Santa Ana. And I'm looking at always green energy, obviously, because we've signed that agreement. Plus, I'm also looking at LNG, that's liquefied natural gas, in modules, so that I will only get, which is modular, I will only get as much as I would need, so that I will never bind CEZA into a power purchase agreement, because I intend to make money for CEZA and not drain it because of dreams. I want to be able. My background is in corporate, so I'm more of the bottom line person. So I really need to make money and more money so that I can give back to the government money, not just keep taking.
Okay. We are speaking with Katrina Ponce Enrile, CEO and Administrator of the Cagayan Economic Zone Authority. Ma'am, marami pa po tayong tanong. We do appreciate if you could hold on and continue this conversation. And we're asking our viewers as well. Please stay with us. We'll just take a short break. The Chiefs will be right back.
Welcome back to the Chiefs. And still with us is Administrator and CEO of the Cagayan Economic Zone Authority, Ms. Katrina Ponce Enrile. Ma'am, thank you for staying with us, and welcome back to Chiefs. Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, can you hear us?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Okay. Ma'am, let me ask you a question that has to do with, I'll ask you this question as somebody who is now CEO and administrator for an economic zone authority, not specifically about Cagayan, but in general about the economic zones. A study by the PIDS, the Philippine Institute for Development Studies, found that, in general, economic zones have been successful in generating exports and employment, but they tend to have marginally positive results in terms of cost-benefit. In other words, ang finding po nila, a lot of investors take advantage of the tax breaks without giving back substantial employment or export earnings. In general po, again, this is not talking about Cagayan itself, but it's talking about economic zones in general. How do you think, to begin with, do you think that is an accurate depiction of economic zones? And secondly, if it is, how do you think we can improve on that situation, the give and take between investors and the Philippines?
Well, like I said earlier, I think there's too many economic zones here. That's why we should start really looking at that and differentiating, okay? Like for Cagayan Economic Zone Authority, we're not only an economic zone, we are a free port. So definitely, everything that's we've set up the free port in such a way that it's a true free port. What do I mean by this? because unlike Subic, the customs is inside of Subic. In Cagayan, the customs area is outside. And there's only one entry and one exit into Cagayan Economic Zone. Now, when it comes to industries and the tax incentives, I really can't talk that much about that because we still don't have those investors with us. But definitely, what we're doing in Cagayan Economic Zone is that the sharing between the locators, that's what we call them, is structured in such a way that, of course, Cagayan Economic Zone Authority has to make a lot of money. Having said that, okay, since I've sat down and I've looked at all the financials for the last 6 years, it's all been negative. So malaki po ang hahabulin ko para to reach us to become in the black. And then, unlike there was a time, okay, prior to the previous administrator, Cagayan Economic Zone Authority was actually one of the biggest GOCCs that was one of the GOCCs that gave the biggest money back to the government, especially during the time of Gloria Macapagal Arroyo, because she really supported us. That in spite of having the tax incentives. So if it is run properly, and if there is no corruption, and if you really deal with everything that is above board, okay, then I think there will be a difference. And me having, I'm the first administrator that is actually from Santa Ana. So I know Santa Ana like the palm of my hand. I know what they need. I know what Cagayan needs. And I know the talent pool that we have there. So it's just matching the industries with the talents in the region. And then, cutting out really all the red tape and all the shenanigans that are going around, that have been going. Let's not be, I'm going to be frank here, let's not kid ourselves into thinking that there were no shenanigans. There was. So, but I have really looked at everything, including receipts, okay? And I know, because in the receipts, there is the white, there is the yellow, there is the pink. The yellow goes to CEZA. The pink, I don't know where it goes. I think it goes to BIR or something like that. I'm not sure yet. The white goes to the locator. But it's the same code, right? The number of the receipt. It's the same.
The OR number.
Oh, yes. OR, thank you for correcting me. OR number. Ang pumapasok lang sa CEZA based on that one receipt, okay? And it's kind of like a continuing one that I've been seeing, it's the same thing, is only 11,200 pesos, okay? But when you look at the white paper, 280,000, 400,000, 500,000. So saan napupunta yung difference? Dapat lahat doon napupunta sa CEZA. So I need to reorganize, change the culture. I'm right-sizing. I'm picking the right people. I'm going to be, actually, I already have this, people are already calling me very strict. I'm not trying to be strict. I am just trying my best because I made that promise to the president that I will take care of CEZA.
Ma'am,
And I will make sure that it will give money back to the national coffer. So that's why inuusisa ko lahat. So I can only speak for CEZA. I cannot speak for the others. I'm not saying that they're doing it there, but I know what's being done in my backyard.
Okay. Ma'am, a two-parter question, but it really goes to the same things and things that you've already mentioned. Una, are we expecting as part of your cleaning house, are we expecting some cases, especially as you narrated that you've been cheated of this, that there's a lot of money that has not been remitted to CEZA or for that matter to the national government. And then ang itatanong ko talaga, pero doon na rin papunta yon. All of these things, the shenanigans that you point out, and maybe not just shenanigans, maybe inefficiencies or real operational realities lang. But all of that has put you in how far in the red? When you say na kailangan meron pa tayong hahabulin before we get to the black, gaano kalayo pa po, gaano kalaki pa yung hahabulin nyo?
Okay, let me just go back a little bit. 2017, when the administrator before the previous one before he came in, there was 1.2 billion pesos in the bank accounts of CEZA. That I know. And but now we're almost in the area, nakahabulin ko po is 1 billion pesos. So I think naman I'll be able to turn this around and be able to attract and compete. I'm up for the challenge. I'm always up for the challenge. So it's just having to re-educate and inspire the people there in my organization to give everything that they got.
Actually, ma'am, I'm looking at a COA report on CEZA from July 2021. COA telling CEZA to collect 148 million pesos in lease and other financial obligations owed to CEZA by locators and gaming licensees. So mukhang may collectibles po kayo, at least in 2021. At medyo malaki-laki to. How are we along those lines? You mentioned a billion pesos na kailangan habulin. Did I get it right?
Yes po. Habulin ko po yun, pero I'm not targeting only just to make habol the 1 billion. I'm really targeting to make money because you need to give jobs. I have to create jobs. I have to create an atmosphere that will allow investors to come in knowing that their investments are safe, right? And the ease of doing business, because I came from corporate. I know the problems of dealing with government. So as much as possible, less contact with us, the better. Although we are a regulatory body, we will actually do more regulations, but targeted regulation. I mean, targeted audits, so that we know exactly where we are. Right now, that is my mandate. I have to see exactly where we are, how we're going to fund all these things, and how we're going to make white elephants, the white elephants that were put up there, earn money.
Okay. Now, ma'am, again, let's get into the plans and the vision. You mentioned kanina, it's also important to have a differentiator for CEZA and the region for that matter, relative to other economic zones, in terms of locators, in terms of sectors that you're trying to attract, and given, as you said, what you understand, what you know about Santa Ana, about the talent pool, the geology, everything about what you're running right now. How do you differentiate? What's a differentiator? What's the proposition? And what are the particular sectors that you think should naturally be looking at CEZA?
As opposed to a PEZA building or another just industrial park, which is called an economic zone, CEZA, because of its sheer size, has a lot of tourists, undiscovered tourist spots. So I plan to actually redo the whole tourism idea that they have right there. If you go there right now, you will see the mistakes of the past in other areas. And definitely that I am one who likes to preserve nature and the environment. I pick up candy wrappers, cigarette butts in the shorelines. I do that. I go around looking for the corals, and if they're still there, I go into the jungles to see if the forest cover is still there, because we have about 23,000 hectares of forest in Santa Ana alone. And I have a plan for that, and I am going to deal with this by really and closely working with the LGU there, because I cannot be doing this all by myself. I will need them to be on board with what I have planned. And I even plan to revisit the building codes over there, and even the massing and the densities, so that way we do not overpopulate and keep Santa Ana as pristine and as beautiful as it is right now. That is for the tourism side. And even and I am a believer, and I'm very bullish about keeping Santa Ana green. And I know everybody's throwing that out right now, but I do practice what I preach. So there's a lot of mangroves that I have to take care of. There's because that is the beauty of the place. We're an economic zone, but then there are also places that you can have leisure. So if and we're allowed to give visas and residency. So anybody that wants to come there, they might want to live there, So I plan to put up a really state-of-the-art hospital. We are sorely lacking. The nearest hospital to Santa Ana is about 3 hours away. Everything else is just
A clinic.
not.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, sort of. So there's a lot that I have to really do. Of course, like I said, the airport, the port. I'm going to put up a circumferential road there, so that all the barangays are all connected. And then I'm going to try and put everything, all the utilities underground. That way, because we're always hit by typhoons. So the communications, the electricity, etc., they will be all underground as much as possible. I've started with the circumferential road. I'm going to tell them to use a different kind of cement, which is more green. That's why I'm going to really ask that we change our building code. I'm going to copy the one that they use in Singapore. Because it doesn't crack, so that way, hindi every time that there is an election, you'll see them digging again the road and stuff like that. This cement that I've discovered, which is green, doesn't really crack, and it's very good for coastal areas, especially if it's for piers, because it resists becoming porous and cracking even underwater.
Ma'am, if you don't mind, cambio lang ako, change topic ng konti. Something not directly work-related. Actually, something about family, your family in particular.
Go ahead.
Yeah, your father...
the more interesting part.
your father, Juan Ponce Enrile, Presidential Chief Legal Counsel, is 99 years old. In 8 months, he turns 100.
Yes, po.
From your discussions with your father, is he planning to keep on working as he turns a century old?
That is Juan Ponce Enrile. He always has to be doing something. He's always reading. He's always studying. He's reading books. He memorizes poems. He does. He always keeps his mind very, very active. So I guess that's his life.
So no signs of
work.
Yeah, no signs of putting on the brakes or going on idle or magmiminor, kumbaga.
Not the way I'm seeing him, no.
No, sorry, I just had to ask that kasi syempre, you know, it's quite unusual for anybody for anybody to be working at 99 and even beyond.
Well, yes, it's very unusual, but you know, there are exceptions.
Okay,
It's
ma'am.
always fun.
Yes, ma'am. Well, is he having fun with what he's doing now?
He always says to me when he's naiinis or irritated. Yeah, naiinis. I'm so stressed. I'm so stressed. You know, I said, why? Because I have to write all. You know, I'm the one who's doing all the work, and all that. I said, okay, then why don't you quit? Then he keeps quiet.
So he quits complaining. That's what he does.
He had to quit complaining.
But anyway,
Okay, I'm sorry, I just had to go into that. But
yeah,
anyway.
maraming salamat po for allowing us to squeeze that in. But in the meantime, we're out of time. Maraming salamat po sa oras ninyo.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you po for having me.
Katrina Ponce
And good
Enrique po,
night.
CEO and Administrator ng Cagayan Economic Zone Authority. And that is it for the Chiefs. We hope what was discussed will keep the conversation going. Ako po si Robbie Alampay.
I'm Ed Lingao. We are One News, all sides, all the time.